Hi, I'm your host, Tamara Calder Richardson of Seeking Heaven, the Near Death Experience, and Other Phenomena. I am a 6-time near death experiencer, as well as an evidential medium, afterlife speaker, among many other things. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, tell your friends, like, and make comments, because I look at all the comments and I actually try to respond to everyone that I can. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. I've been really excited. We've been going back and forth trying to set this up because they're so busy, but I just had to, I wanted to make sure that this guest tonight was going to be on. And I'm talking about, this is someone who I don't even want to pigeonhole and say UFO specialist. There's, my goodness, there's so many paranormal and mysteries and other things that he knows about. So let me tell you a little about this person. This would be Reinerio, which is Ray Hernandez. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, because I don't want to leave his bio out, because he is very important, his background, but he's a delight. I want to do this quickly because I can't wait for you to meet him. So Ray is the director of Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, which is called CCRI, and that's an academic research institute. The mission is to have the relationship between consciousness, cosmology, and contact with non-human intelligence via contact modalities such as UFOs, near-death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences, ghosts, spirits, afterlife, interdimensional communication, remote viewing, and so much more. And he's going to explain all of that. And he had his first book, and he's got a second one that is that's going to be out any day now. But the first one that he has is an 820-page book that's titled Beyond UFO, the Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence, which was a 5-year research study. And it was several people involved with that, very distinguished people that were involved with that research with Ray. He has several academic journals that he has out. The Journal of Consciousness Studies, Society for Scientific Exploration, as well as he has a 3-volume book, A Greater Reality, the New Paradigm of Consciousness, the Paranormal and Contact Modalities, which is the second one coming out. He's going to explain both of them. The internet, his website is below this, so that would be consciousnessandcontact.org. We're going to bring him on because he's got to explain all this. I mean, he is just a pistol and so fascinating. So Ray, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation, Tamara.
You are so welcome. You are so fascinating and so much fun. I mean, my viewers are going to have a fit, and you're going to have to buy both of his books. And you also told me pre-interview that the first book, which I have both here, the first one, this is volume 1, so you're going to have volume 2, 3, 4, correct?
Actually, it's going to be a whole new, brand new series, and we're actually going to have 4 volumes of A Greater Reality. And I'll go into those details later on.
Oh my goodness, right there.
Yes, that's going to be 4 volumes.
Wow.
And we have actually 5 editors. And for example, besides myself, Rudy Shields is an emeritus professor of astrophysics from Harvard University. Dr. John Klimo, professor for 45 years of psychology. And what did he study those 45 years? Consciousness and the paranormal. Okay. Dr. Michael Grosso, a professor of philosophy, again for over 45 years. Same topics. He was studying consciousness and the paranormal and philosophy, which is his background. And we also have Dr. Jeffrey Long, Dr. Jeffrey Long, who is one of the pioneers and main researchers of near-death experiences.
Absolutely.
And he's a medical doctor. So the 5 of us are the co-editors for this book, which is actually going to be 4 volumes.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, I've had Dr. Jeffrey Long on here 3 times, and he's fascinating, and he's also delightful. So tell me about the first book, how it was created, and then I want to hear some of your experiences, because you were basically an academic and a non-believer. So I want people to kind of go on this journey where if you could take us on this journey, how the life of Ray unfolded spiritually.
Okay. First of all, I want individuals to take out a pen or a pencil, because I'm about to give to your audience members roughly 2/3 of our book, Beyond UFOs.
Wow.
For free.
No way.
Okay. So write down this email. It's
Okay.
info, info, at experiencer, which is EXPERIENCER.org. So it's info at experiencer.org. That's my
Yeah.
email. Say, look, Ray, I want to get the 450 pages that you promised us, okay,
Mhm.
from our first book, Beyond UFOs. And the title of
Wow.
the book is Beyond UFOs, The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence. And I will also send you information about our new book, okay, with the table of contents, a brief description of our book, and several other documents for you to be able to understand the purpose of this new book.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. Let me just say thank you. Do you see that? It totally pays to watch the Seeking Heaven channel because look at this. We're getting a copy of this first book. It's amazing with all this research. I mean, I want to cry. I mean, because I know the passion and the your dedication that you personally have put. I know that you care about this topic and you want to help people. You know,
to understand what actual the data says
yeah,
from 4,200 experiencers. Let me go back and give you, like you were saying, how did all of this began,
yeah,
and then I'll talk about the first book. Okay.
yes,
Um, Before March 4th, 2012, I had zero interest and zero knowledge about all aspects of the paranormal, about UFOs, near death experiences, out of body experiences, ghosts and spirits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And my background is I had attended Rutgers College. I graduated with honors. I then went to Cornell University, which is an Ivy League school, and I had straight A's at Cornell for a master's degree. And then I went to University of California, Berkeley, and I received the National Science Foundation PhD fellowship. And Berkeley has the most Nobel Prize winners in the world. Okay, so I went there for a PhD. So basically, my background was as an academic. Okay, and fast forward many years later, um, March 4th, 2012. We had a dog, a 15-year-old dog, a Jack Russell Terrier. Her name was Nena. Nena means little girl in Spanish. Okay,
yeah, sir.
and so she was like our first child, and we treated her like our first child. Okay, but then one evening, on March the 3rd, uh, we noticed that she had a stroke. She had a cerebral hemorrhage. She was totally paralyzed. We called our vet, and then the vet, he made an appointment to bring her tomorrow because she was totally paralyzed. We were going to euthanize her. So my wife, being a good hard Catholic that she was, she began praying all night. Okay,
Wow.
and then and me being the good atheist that I was, I said, go on and pray all you want. Nothing's going to happen to her. So in the morning when we woke up, our dog was still totally paralyzed. So I went back to sleep, and my wife carried her down the stairs to see if she could go to the bathroom one last time before we brought her to the vet later that afternoon. So um, all of a sudden, she goes downstairs to our living room, and right in the middle of the living room, she sees an object. And let me describe it to you.
Okay.
It looked like an upside down U, the letter U, except it was gigantic. It was very big. It was roughly 2.5 feet tall by 2 feet wide, and it looked like an upside down U. Okay, and
Okay.
part of the time it was fully metallic, like silverish color, and then it would be phasing in and out of reality because then it became transparent. You could still see the outline of that object, but it was transparent. You could see the back of the living room. Okay, but then all of a sudden it would be fully material and metallic. Okay, my wife obviously thought it was her angel. She had prayed to La Virgen de Guadalupe, which is the Virgin Mary for the Mexicans,
Okay.
and so she thought that this was an angel that was being sent to cure our dog. So my wife started praying, and then all of a sudden it shot out white fluorescent light from the side, and had these two green lights that started scanning her. So it was at that point that she began to yell for me, not because she was scared, but she wanted me to see her angels. Okay. So after like 2 minutes of her yelling me to go down, And me, I was like, what the hell she's waking me up for, man? I need to, it's Sunday, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. She's waking me up, right? So anyway, she goes upstairs, she holds me out of bed. She wouldn't tell me what she was seeing. So, okay, maybe there's a little cockroach, a little mouse or something, and that's what she got me up for. So we're going down the stairs, and she's in front of me, like 3 or 4 steps on the stairs in front of me. And then when she reaches the living room, poof, she disappears. The dog disappears. And then all of a sudden, some type of intelligence has full control of my consciousness, of my thoughts. Okay. And
Wow.
what I saw was an energy being in my living room. And let me describe it to you. It was in the same location that my wife had described that physical object that she had mentioned. Okay. Except this was about 2.5 feet wide and about a foot in height, sort of rectangle in shape, but it didn't have any external edges because it was pure energy. In the inside was like a desert mirage, you know how it's waves like this, okay?
Yeah.
And it was multiple colors. And that object totally controlled my consciousness, okay? Because here I am, I'm looking at this thing. I didn't care that my wife disappeared. I didn't care that my dog disappeared. I didn't even care that I was watching this object. Okay. I looked at it and I squinted at it and then I waved my hand at it and I said, this is what you got me up for this crap. I'm going back to sleep. Okay.
Okay.
So then I turned around. I proceeded to go up the stairs. I went to bed. I put my hands on my chest and then I was knocked out. I
Wow.
became unconscious. An hour later, when I woke up, now I was fully conscious. Okay. And immediately was like, what the hell just happened? And I ran down the stairs. And poof, my wife reappears again. And she looks down and the dog is running around the entire living room, completely healed. Not to the point where she was before, because before she was like an old lady on crutches. She couldn't run, she couldn't jump, she was very, very sick. Okay. Whatever this intelligence was, healed her to like almost like a teenager. Okay. Not even like a 90-year-old lady, that was not paralyzed. It was like healed her like a little teenager. Now she was running around the entire living room. She was jumping, and my wife was picking her up and hugging her, and she was saying, "The angels cured her. The angels cured her. Hallelujah,
Wow.
hallelujah." And to me, it was like an atom bomb exploded in my head, and I was quiet, just trying to digest it all until I got some semblance. And then
Mhm.
I asked my wife, "Where were you? Where did you go? You weren't here." And she says, "What do you mean? Where was I?" I said, "Look at the time. It's almost 7 o'clock. You were gone for like 55 minutes."
Oh, how cool.
Okay. And she says, "No, no, I didn't go anywhere. You were right behind me. I walked down the stairs. I looked down and I saw Nana running around the living room and I began to celebrate." I said, "No, no, look at the time." I said, "Where were you?" She goes, "I'm telling you, I didn't go anywhere." And it wasn't until 6 months later when we had our third major experience. I had called someone from this organization called MUFON, which investigates UFO cases.
Right.
And this retired school teacher, her husband uh, is a retired scientist from the National Hurricane Center in Miami. So first she came alone, and then later on she came with her husband. And she was the first one to tell us what your wife had, what is called missing time. Okay, I had no idea what that was. Okay,
Okay.
and then I can explain it to your readers later on. But what had happened was that approximately 2 months later, my wife was woken up by our dog at 3:30 in the morning. So she said maybe she wants to go to the bathroom. Okay, I'll open up the back door. So she goes downstairs. She goes to the back door, but the dog was jumping on the front door, which she never did. Okay, so she was jumping on the front door, jumping on the front door. So my wife opens the front door. She goes down the stairs and she hears this deafening noise. She said it was like a 747 jet was right above her. Okay.
Wow.
So after like a minute, the noise stops. She looks up and there's a big, gigantic Goodyear blimp right on top of her. And she goes, "My angels came and visited me last night. They came in a beautiful angelic craft and it had stained glass windows just like our church. And I'm like, what? And I asked, draw what you saw. And she did like a quick drawing of what it was.
Yeah. And how long have you been married?
Since 1994. And this happened in, the second experience happened in May of 2012. Okay, late May of 2012. So I
Okay.
said, what you saw was a UFO. She goes, it wasn't a UFO, it was my angels. She said, you're an atheist. You wouldn't understand, you know? And so now by then I had switched going on the internet from the paranormal, which is what I thought it was originally, to UFO related. Then she went to Mexico like about a month later, and she spent there an entire month. And she would spend many nights praying at night. And what would appear? A big, gigantic UFO. Okay. Twice seen by her family members. Okay.
Interesting.
So there were witnesses to all of this. And
So there
I
was a
interviewed.
communication. There was a being received, her
Oh,
communication.
yes, yes.
You
This is
heard.
this is extremely common. It's called human initiated contact experiences, more commonly known as CE5. Okay, but that's not the appropriate term. The appropriate term is HICE, human initiated contact experiences. Just like a lot of people that have had interventions by angels that saved their lives, a lot of these came out through prayers,
Yeah.
okay, and requests, okay.
Yeah.
There's something also called post-death communications, where a relative dies, and here you are, you're bawling out, crying for your mother, and boom, your deceased mother shows up, okay. The internet is literally filled with
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of those eyewitness testimonies, okay, but
Right.
it's the similar concept,
Got it.
okay, okay, that you're putting your consciousness, your
Yes.
thoughts, your awareness, okay, to the universal mind, God, whatever you might want to call it, okay,
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
you're a religious person, and then it responds, okay. So, um, so in August, okay, this was towards the end of August, my wife had returned. She told me about all the experiences that she had, and so I was waiting for a friend of mine to give me some papers, okay, and it was I was going to do a motion to consolidate. He had gotten all these parking tickets, so he asked me if I could help him out, and he was a friend, right? So I said I need all the parking tickets so I could do a motion like that. You go to court one time instead of 12 different times for all the tickets he didn't pay, and you work something out with the judge, okay?
Okay.
So I said, but I need the ticket. So he calls me up, Ray, I got all the tickets. I said, okay, how close are you? I'm real close. Okay, I'll wait for you outside. So here I am waiting for him, and he doesn't show up. So then all of a sudden, I remember I had watched a video of this man named Prophet Yahweh, which is this heavy set African American man, and he would speak in Hebrew in the middle of the day, okay, looking at the sky, and these little tiny UFOs would appear, and he would record them on a camcorder, okay. And the one I specifically remember had an NBC camera crew, a professional camera. So when he
Okay.
did that, they were like making a joke of him, making fun of him. They were going to do a live session with him. And then when
Okay.
it appeared and the camera zoomed in to that
Wow.
UFO they had captured, all of a sudden NBC Studios said, "No, we're cutting back to the studio, cutting back to the studio. Thank you, Prophet Seho. Thank you to Prophet Yahweh, whatever." Like they
You're
couldn't.
kidding. They would not air it? That's the coolest
No.
thing
They aired
ever.
it live because it was live,
Yeah,
but
but
then they didn't run it. No.
oh my God.
And so I remembered that, and I said, if my wife can do it, if Prophet Yahweh can do it, let me give it a try, right? But in the beginning, I was killing time. I wasn't very sincere about it. Okay,
Okay.
I was just killing time until my friend comes. Let's see what
All
happens.
right.
Right? But then the more I got into it, the more emotional I became.
Really?
The more loving it became, because I wanted to give them thanks for healing our dog, who was like our first child. The more I got into it, the more emotional I became, the more
Okay.
loving it became. Okay. And towards the end, it was like pure love was coming out. Okay. And then all of a sudden, I said to myself, I'm going crazy. Here I am, I'm calling down a UFO. I need to stop all this stuff now, stop all the UFO stuff because I'm turning into a madman. Okay. Soon as I had that thought, immediately I looked up right on top of my next door neighbor's house, 30 feet above us, where I could get a rock and throw and hit it, was the bottom of a huge, gigantic object.
Like
The,
how
si-
big?
the size of a football stadium.
That's darn big. I mean, I'm
It was at
wow.
least 6 blocks in length. Okay,
That's
like
sickening.
a description. A
That quick.
100 meters up, and like maybe 600 meters going back. Okay, but it wasn't physical, similar to like that object that we saw in our living room. Okay, and let me describe it to you. Okay,
Yeah.
if you know what the term oblong means, a very long elongated circle. Okay,
Yes.
if you can imagine thousands of oblong streaks of light that form the whole shell, sort of like a skeleton,
Yeah.
okay, of an object. Okay,
Got it.
and these oblong streaks of light did not do a 360 complete turn. They would do either a 90 or a 180, and then they would be continued. But there were thousands of them, okay, forming the
Oh
whole shell
God.
of the outside, and
Yeah.
inside was all this white plasma moving around, and it was semi-transparent because you could see the clouds behind it. It was a totally cloudy night. You couldn't see any stars, none whatsoever. All the stars were the clouds were low to the ground. Okay, and so and then all of a sudden I heard a voice. Okay, not a voice. It was like a thought. It was a download, like people when in a near-death experience, and
Yeah.
they hear communication messages.
Yes.
It's telepathic. Okay, except in this instance, it was a telepathic communication, but it was my daughter's voice.
Huh.
Okay,
Okay.
my daughter had just turned 10 years old back in July 31st. Okay, so the voice said, Daddy, you and mommy have seen UFOs. The next time you guys see a UFO, you call me, Daddy. Don't forget, don't forget. Now, when I heard that, immediately in my mind, I didn't think rationally. Well, I found out later that they had controlled my consciousness. Okay, and I'll go into those details later on because this is very, very key to the
Is your
phenomena.
daughter still living, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah,
she's
she's 19 years old. Yeah,
okay, but at the time she was 10.
she was 10, correct.
Okay. And you heard her voice, so they projected her voice to you.
Okay, the way it works is as follows. Okay,
Okay.
whatever this intelligence is, and I have a suspicion of what it is, these are
All
not
right.
ETs and aliens and things like that that people are talking about. This is something
All right.
much, much more complicated.
Okay, cool. I'm all into this. This is awesome.
Okay,
Go ahead.
that this intelligence got into my mind, my consciousness thoughts, my memory banks. Okay, they uploaded my daughter's communications and voice patterns. They re-scrambled it and
Yeah.
and then downloaded it to me like a computer because it's all information. It's all ones and zeros, binary
Who's
codes.
behind you?
It's all
Yes.
information. Okay, and so um, and then immediately in my mind, my daughter wants to see this. My daughter wants to see this. So I ran to the window and I'm yelling out for her to see it. She always opens up the window. What is it, Daddy? I said, sweetheart, run outside, run. There's a UFO out here. There's a UFO out here. And she already knew all the UFO stories because of my wife. Okay. So she runs outside. She goes out there and she wasn't scared at all. I wasn't scared at all. She goes, Daddy, what is that? I said, sweetheart, it's a UFO, but it's in hiding. It's not fully materialized because it doesn't want to get
Right.
caught by radar. About 15 minutes after that, my daughter and I were watching this and we were being entertained. It was like the 4th of July. Okay. All of a sudden, my friend comes with his wife and their 17-year-old daughter. They leave the car right in the middle of the cul-de-sac where we live. They ran to us, and both of them, the 17-year-old stayed with my daughter, right? So they then told me, Ray, what is that? What is that? I said, you know damn well what it is. No, no, no. Kepi, Kepi. And they began to try to explain it away. Okay. So after a minute of their goofy explanations, okay, and me not telling them that I called it down because that would have been too much for them to deal with. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it would.
It's like, here's my friend calling it down, and it appeared that was too much. Okay. So I
Did
didn't
you
say anything.
challenge it? Did you go, hey, if you're real, blah, or
Well,
how did
let
that
me
work?
explain. Let me explain. Yes, I
Okay.
did.
I'm
Then
curious how you
you,
did this.
you read my mind. You know, you've got a little ESP in you. Okay. And so what happened is they began tried to explain these things. And after a minute, I just busted out laughing because what they were saying was just so hysterical.
They
hysterical
couldn't
or
comprehend it. They were coming up with human things.
with humans things. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then in my mind, and don't ask me why I communicated with them, in a certain way that I did, but it was
Yeah.
very natural. It
Uh-huh.
just came out like, and then later on I was like, why did I do that? It came out like I've been talking to them, hundreds of times,
Yeah.
So in my mind, I thought, you better come up with some better BS than this, because
Okay.
my friends don't believe you. Okay. You see how naturally it came out? You better come up with some
Yeah. Just like you're talking to anybody.
anybody. That's how in my mind, it was not with my voice, with my mind.
Right. Right.
Immediately when I had that thought, what we
Yes.
were watching was totally replaced, disappeared, and totally replaced by a different holographic projection.
What was it?
It was a holographic projection. And the image that they replaced it with now was hundreds of very, very large stars that weren't stars in the sky, but they were like star-like objects that were inside that object that I was describing before. Now, mind you, that object was like 30 feet away from us, the bottom part of it. Went up like 100 meters and
Okay.
600 meters back. So all throughout that inside of that object were hundreds of stars that were blinking on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off like this.
Got it.
And the closest is some people that have bikes at night, and they have a light, strobe light that goes like this. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but next time,
Yeah.
also these huge towers. If you're going on a highway, you'll
Yeah.
see these huge towers that
Yes.
blink like
Yes.
this, like out of
Of course.
nowhere. These lights appear, these
Mhm.
strobe lights.
Yes.
It was like that, except it was very fast, and it was all the lights were doing that. And then certain lights by certain areas would take turns blowing up to like the size of the moon. You know how the moon gets very large,
Yes.
certain days of the month, and then
Yeah.
it goes like this. Okay. And then it was another area. It was doing that. Okay. Then my friends stopped because they know that this was not man made. Okay. Then, like after 10 minutes, all of a sudden, Ray, we got to go. Okay. And in my mind was like, okay, don't worry about that motion to consolidate. I'll send it to you tomorrow. Like nothing. Like they have to leave. Now, upon reflection, the night afterwards, you're like, why did they just leave? Okay. This is a once in a lifetime experience. Okay. And also, why didn't I question them leaving? It was like normal. They had to leave. The next door neighbor, right next to, under the house, why didn't I go and knock on his door? Because they turn on the lights. Now, the normal logical thing to do would be to knock on their door and say, Pablo, get the hell out. Look what's on top of your roof.
Yeah.
Or Pablo go outside and they see myself and my daughter, people that he knew, and these three strangers just looking on top of his house like this. That never took place. Why? Because this intelligence is able to control your mind, your thoughts.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, what we need to do is
Sounds like it.
record this thing for an hour. That never took place. Okay. Why? Because this intelligence does not allow you to take up close video recordings or pictures. Only at a distance you'll see like a little UFO, that type of thing, but you never see, or rarely. There are some
You're
things
saying that's intentional.
they will not allow it, and a lot of people are saying, "How come
Hmm.
you didn't take a picture of it?" Well, you have to understand that these are not just, a little being from Mars or Venus, with technology 1,000 years ahead of us. No, these are interdimensional intelligences.
Mhm.
Okay, that is able to imagine work with our minds like a computer to upload and download information.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is, after my friends leave and after all this takes place, how do they get me to leave? Okay. I felt that all of a sudden I was being attacked by hundreds of mosquitoes. So I was slapping my arms, slapping my legs. And so I
Oh.
grabbed my daughter and I said, let's get out of here. These mosquitoes are killing me. Right. So we go inside the house. The door is wide open. Our dog is a little dog. These little dogs, if they hear someone outside, they're ready to fight,
Yeah.
and
It's
protect
true.
the house.
It's
Protect the
true.
house. She was one of those type of dogs. Okay. She never came out. The whole door was open the whole time. Okay.
Wow. They control the dog's mind too.
And my wife was one of these mother hens that's always very, very protective of our daughter. So here it is. Our daughter was gone for almost an hour. My wife never even came out or bothered to find out what's going on. So anyway, my wife was at the front door. I'm telling her what happened, and she goes like this, "Oh, how nice." Like she was waking up from a trance. So after that experience, which is our third major experience, that's when I called MUFON. Okay. Now, here's an interesting part of it. Okay. It was after that experience that most of my paranormal experiences began. And it lasted for 3.5 years after that date. Okay. And
Okay.
part of it is the NDE story, because I know you've done a lot of work with NDE researchers and NDE experiencers. Okay. So then you say to yourself, how do you get this man to be able to do the work that he's doing now? You have to have spirituality, because at the fundamental core of all of this
Yeah.
is that you have to understand that you're an eternal spiritual being.
Yeah.
These are all, as you said, spiritually transformative experiences. Okay. So how did they do that with me? Okay. Well, this is how they did it. Okay. The next day after I saw that huge gigantic object, I saw a video on NDEs, which I had never seen before. Okay. And then like a few days later, I saw a video on consciousness. Well, we're talking about that consciousness is fundamental. And it was a science-based video. Okay. It wasn't metaphysical. It was based upon quantum physics. Okay. And then for the next 4 months, I literally started off reading books that were 4 hours a day. And towards the end of the month, it was 18 hours a day. And it was 2/3 of the book were NDE books and materials, and the other third were the physics of consciousness. That consciousness is fundamental. Okay. And let me tell you about these 3 days. Okay. And you probably have heard of the importance of one of these days. Okay. December 21st, 2012.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
That was
Yeah.
a Friday.
Yes.
Okay. So it all started that Friday. The very first 3 people I ever mentioned NDEs to, all of them had it. And let me tell you how it started. The thing I could say was that it was many months later when I retold that story. Someone told me, "Do you know the significance of that Friday, December 21st, 2012?" I said, "Well, I heard that date mentioned before, but I really don't know." Then they began to explain to me, the metaphysical aspects of why that date was important. And so anyway, on that date, my daughter had a fever for 2 straight days. So my wife had always brought her to this new pediatrician. So here I am meeting this doctor for the first time. Okay. And so she tells me, "Well, I've got some good news. Maybe it was one of these 24-hour bugs. She got a fever from a virus, and boom, it's gone." And so immediately, right after she said that, out of a sudden came a channeled voice. Okay. To the point where I thought I was having mental health issues, because I thought there was
Yeah.
another mind inside me. Okay.
Really? Okay.
And it came out like this. Okay.
Mhm.
I've got some good news. And she told me all of that. And all of a sudden, "Excuse me, doctor. Have you ever heard the term near-death experiences? I've just finished reading approximately 300 books on this topic, and it's a phenomenon that you need to know about. And as a matter of fact, many of those books were written by medical doctors such as yourself. Right? So you need to understand what is a near-death experience." And so in my head, as I was saying this, I said, "What the hell is going on?"
You said it. It came through your head and you just spoke it out.
And I spoke it out, right?
Yeah.
And as I was
Yeah.
saying it, I was trying to make it stop, but I couldn't make it stop.
Please stop, not to embarrass me. Please stop.
Okay.
This is my world.
So my wife, up to that point, she was telling me that I need to go to a psychiatrist, because here I was 18 hours a day just reading all these books. I
Mhm.
didn't care about my family. I didn't care about my work. My work actually stopped. I work at home. All this technical, legal stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I didn't care about anything. I didn't watch TV. I didn't go to the internet. It was just 18
Right.
hours a day. I wasn't shaving. I wasn't showering. I was like a crazy madman. And so my
Mhm.
wife was telling me I need to go to a psychiatrist. They got medications, to deal, with what you're going through. And so I said, I'll go. But after this last book, and it went on like that for like the entire last month. So anyway, the doctor's eyeballs are like this, right? And so I said, "Oh my God, now this woman thinks I'm crazy." On top of me possibly being crazy, now is I'm meeting this doctor and she thinks I'm a nut job, So I said, excuse me, doctor, I apologize. I don't know why I said this. And then she says, no, there's no need to apologize. How did you know I had one?
Oh.
Okay. And then she goes
Okay.
on and tells me the details with my daughter next to me of her NDE. Okay. The next day, okay, Saturday evening at my wife's local Catholic church, there was a church dinner for the Spanish ministry for all the married couples that go to the Spanish Mass. Okay. So it was quite large group there, and so my wife sat next to this lady also from Mexico. Okay. Her husband is also Cuban American, like I am. We were both born in Cuba. We came, very young to the country. And his name is Max.
Okay.
He's a radiologist technician, the people that takes X-rays and MRIs and those things.
Wow.
Okay, at a local hospital here in Miami. Okay, and so we introduced each other. He told me when he came from Cuba, what age. That lasted like not even a minute. Those introductions. Okay, immediately. Excuse me, Max. Have you ever heard the term near-death experiences? I've just finished reading approximately 300 books on this topic, and it's a phenomenon that you need to know about, right? And so all of a sudden it's like certified. I've got mental health issues. There's another voice inside of me. I tried to stop it this
Oh
time,
my
and
gosh.
it didn't stop. I said, I have severe mental health issues. Monday, I'm gonna try to go to see a psychiatrist, the first psychiatrist that has an appointment. Okay.
Oh my
So all
goodness.
of a sudden, Max's eyeballs pop out.
Oh golly.
Okay. I said, now this man thinks I'm crazy. Okay. And his wife and my wife, they're very good friends, almost best friends. And I said, I need to straighten this out real quick. I said, Max, I apologize. I don't know why I said that. And he looks at me and he stares at me. He says, Ray, I've never told this to anybody except my wife.
Okay.
He
Okay.
then told me that a year ago, his mother died right in front of him. He was alone in their house. He had, because he's in a hospital, he knows how to do CPR. So he was pumping her chest. He was blowing air down her windpipe, the whole works. Meantime, he had called 911, waiting for 911 to come. The two people from 911 came. Okay. It was this, he didn't tell me the description, but he said that they came and took away, and he followed the ambulance in his car. And after they revived her in the ambulance, he found out later, he then spoke with his mother once she was cleared to talk. They did all these studies on her, and then they allowed him to go talk to his mother. And then his mother told him, I saw you. You were giving me CPR. You told me this. You told me that. You told me that. You were crying all on top of me when you were telling me all of this. And then, but how do you know that, Mom? How do you know that? I said, I was on top of you. And she witnessed everything from her out-of-body experience, watching her dead body underneath. Okay. Then said, all of a sudden, this big, heavy-set black man, he looked like a football player, 300 pounds, very large man, comes crashing through the door. And then there's a short blonde woman with a blonde ponytail, comes right behind them. And they were dressed in this particular color, whatever. And he goes, but Mom, how did you know that? Those are the paramedics.
Yeah, the medical workers.
Yeah, the paramedics. And so she said, I already told you, I was on top of the ceiling. I was watching everything. And she said, I was even on top of the ambulance as the ambulance was driving away. And then all of a sudden she got sucked up and she went to the tunnel where she saw her deceased husband. She told them all of this, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so, by the end of the day, Max was telling me all of this, the evening, those stories, how it affected him and all this and that. And then I told him the day before what happened to our medical doctor. Okay. The details of the story of the medical doctor. And then I told him about the UFO stuff, all the things that happened inside our house with the healing of our dog, the whole works. Now, he couldn't make heads or tails about what I'm telling him about the medical healing and our dog, and then seeing all the UFOs with yesterday with the doctor and what happened to him. He just didn't make the connection. I didn't make the connection, even though it was 2 days in a row, because I was still a hardcore atheist. I was a materialist. Okay.
Mm.
So the next day, every Sunday, my father was still alive at that time. He was very, very ill, bedridden. Okay, very, very sick. He eventually died like a year and a half after this. What I'm going to tell you, and so my father is like the was like the Cuban Archie Bunker. Okay,
Lord.
he's only been to church twice. 0 ounce of spirituality to my father. And so I said, I need to tell him what happened on Friday, what happened yesterday, because he doesn't have an ounce of spirituality. If somehow he can be, convinced that these things are real, he might think differently. Now, meanwhile, I was still a hardcore atheist, thinking all of this. So I told my mother, let's get dad dressed. We got him dressed. I said, I got something very important to tell you. We went outside to the patio. He was with his walker, whatever. So then I told him what happened on Friday and what happened on Saturday. I didn't tell him all the UFO stuff because that would just been too much, or the healing of our dog or anything like that. So I told him what happened Friday, what happened Saturday, right? He looks at me and he goes, that happened to me. He goes, remember 16 years ago, I had my quadruple heart bypass surgery? I said, yeah. He says, well, when they were doing the surgery, all of a sudden, I'm on top of the operating room. I'm seeing all the doctors, all the nurses. I saw my body underneath. I didn't recognize that was me. It was only later on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I'm looking around. I'm very curious, what the hell's going on? Then I realized it was me. It says, I probably died. Then he said, all of a sudden, a vacuum cleaner sucked him up. His soul. Okay?
Yeah.
But the way he described it like a vacuum cleaner sucked him up.
Right.
Yeah. And they said all of a sudden he went rushing through this long tunnel. Okay. And things were flying by him. Okay. And there was a little light. The light got bigger. And then he went through the light. Okay. And then he was blinded by the light. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, when it dissipated, he saw his father, his mother, and his deceased brother.
Nice.
All spirit form. Not as old people when they died, but they were much, much younger.
Right. They look good.
They look good. And so he then communicated with them, and he said it was not by mouth. He didn't use the word telepathic, okay? But it was
mind to mind.
Mind to mind, And then he said all of a sudden they presented him to a being that he said was God, okay? And I said, well, did it look like Jesus, with a robe and a beard and stuff? No, it was just like a big, gigantic ball of energy. Mm-hmm. He says, how do you know it was God? He says, I know it was God, And I said, what happened? He says, and then the next thing he tells me, he says, I was up there 20 or 30 years. I said, what do you mean you were up there 20 or 30 years? He says, that's how long it took God to show me all the good things I had done in my life and all the bad things. Okay. And he showed it to me by me reliving all of these experiences again. And then after each one, he would tell me, what did you learn from that? Okay? He tells me that there's no hell because God is pure love. So this is my father. Mm-hmm. This is the Archie Bunker of Cuba.
Yeah.
The world's biggest atheist, telling me all of this. Wow. And I was like in complete shock, And I said,
maybe he wasn't so atheist because he sounds pretty aware to me.
Well, what had happened was that after that operation, as I said, it was 16 years after the operation. For most of those years, I was not living in Miami. I would just go down there like once a year to spend like a week with them, for a very, very long time. So I really had very minimal communication with my parents except for these vacations. And what I can remember of my father was that most of the time he'd be out there watching TV, but he would not be watching TV. He'd just be staring out, right? Oh. And he wasn't very communicative. But when he did talk, you could tell he had all his mental faculties, Now in hindsight, it's like he spent most of his time probably reliving that experience, in his mind. And so during when he was telling me all of this, I said, what do you mean you were up there 20 or 30 years? He said, that's how long it took God to show me all the good things and all the bad things. And it took 20 to 30 years for him to show me. So when he was eventually told you need to return, and he didn't want to return, okay? But all of a sudden he returned, and he's back in the hospital. Was when he was waking up from the surgery, okay? So when he met my mother in the recovery room, I got to tell you something. I got to tell you something. Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. You had a major operation. Go back to sleep. I got to tell you something. I got to tell you very, very important. Go back to sleep. I need to tell you, because he had been gone for 20 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I asked, and then there was a point there that my father shut up. He just didn't want to talk anymore about it. I said, but dad, blah, blah. No, I don't talk about it. But dad, I told you, I don't want to talk anymore about it. Like he just shut. So then I turned to my mother. I said, Mom, did he ever tell you these things? She said, only when he was waking up from his surgery. Okay. That's when he told me that she had tried to calm him down. He was like hysterical, wanting to tell her that. So finally he told her, and then she said, okay, now go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. She said they never spoke about it again. Okay.
Really?
Never spoke about it again. Never. Okay. So in front of him, in the patio outside, she told me that, yes, he told me that when he was waking up from the surgery. Okay. But in his mind, he recalled all the details. Okay. All the details. Now, on the way home, I put my windows down and I saw that there were stars in the sky. Now, mind you, this is Miami. You're not going to be seeing like in your background tons of stars all over the place, but still, the significant amount of stars that I saw. And so for the first time in my life, going home at my father's house at 9 o'clock at night, okay, I talked to God. I said, I want to thank you because in a 4-month period, you had managed to totally transform someone who was an atheist, a material rationalist, into someone that I don't have a belief. I have a knowingness. I know that I'm an eternal spiritual being. And I have that knowingness more than any Catholic priest in Florida.
I
In
agree.
Miami, I said, in Miami.
Yeah.
And for that, I want to thank you.
Wow.
And since that day, I have not read any NDE books. Okay? It's not necessary anymore.
You know.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's how this intelligence, which I call modern angels, extensions of God, okay, of the universal mind, gave me spirituality. And it was after that experience that my paranormal stuff just took off. After I understood that all of these paranormal experiences were very, very real. They weren't fantasies, they weren't, mind creations, they weren't, once I accepted it, everything stopped. They needed to give me time to do the academic research that I'm doing now. Okay. They knew that I had to be fully focused in terms of what I'm doing. And I couldn't be having these out of body experiences, being brought to other realities and all this crazy stuff and seeing things in my house,
Right.
That I had been dealing with.
Right.
It's like, okay, kid, you're already set up. You got your spirituality. You understand all this paranormal stuff. Now we're going to leave you alone. Now start doing your academic research work.
And that's planned too. That makes
It's
perfect
all planned. No, it's all planned out. All planned out.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
what I was going to say is that I could give you another example.
Yeah.
Of how it was all planned out. Okay. Something happened with Mary Rodwell. Mary Rodwell wrote a book in, I think it was 2012, titled Awakening. Okay. And it's about UFO contact experiencers.
Okay, I think I just bought that. That is what's so weird. I just bought that 2 days ago.
Wow, look at that.
And I was like, wonder if this is a good book, because they're always telling me who to have on the show, or like, or like, they'll tell me strange things.
It's about time. It's about time that you needed to have Mary. I'll hook both of you guys up.
Oh my gosh, crazy. Okay.
So here I was. Let's backtrack to October of 2012. Okay. I already had called down this UFO. Okay. And I was having these paranormal experiences that were beginning, okay, to me. And so I sent an email to like 10 very famous people in the UFO field, okay, wanting someone to talk to because I was lost, I don't know what was happening. I only got 2 responses back. One of them was Whitley Strieber.
Yeah.
And again, it was only like a short paragraph.
Okay.
Nothing big. The other person, the same thing. Okay. So here I was, I think it was May 6th, 2013. I'm going to work at 8:30 in the morning in the middle of a traffic jam. Okay. Non-stop traffic, bumper to bumper. Okay. I'm listening to this radio interview on National Public Radio. All of a sudden, I'm not in the car anymore.
Oh, wow.
Okay, now I'm just mind. Okay,
Yeah.
everything is all dark. I'm just mind, and I'm like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden, I begin to see little by little that I'm inside a wheel, a big gigantic wheel. You know how a Ferris wheel, how huge it is?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in the center of it, looking out, and it's turning slowly. And inside the different spokes, okay, inside the different spokes
Yes.
was like a video, okay?
Um,
And I was getting
okay.
downloads of what each one was. Each one was different. All of
All right.
these were the contact modalities. This one here, I knew was about near death experiences. This one
Yes.
was about out of body experiences. This is people that see ghosts and spirits. These are people that have had UFO contact experiences. These are the people that take DMT, magic mushrooms, or are having hallucinogenic journeys. These are the people that do channeling and get messages via channeling. The people that do remote viewing, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So I would look at these things, I would see the video, and all of a sudden I got like this massive amount of information of what it was. Okay. And then all of a sudden, again, it wasn't a voice, it was information
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
told me these are all the different ways that humans are piercing the veil of our reality,
Like in your book,
like in our book. Okay.
NDEs, OBEs, UFOs,
Yes.
spirits.
They're piercing the veil of our reality. In other words, they're going like through the black hole
Oh, like
and
here
coming
did.
and coming out somewhere else in
Okay.
another dimension. Okay.
Got it.
These are all the different ways that humans are piercing the veil of our reality and having contact with non-human intelligence. Okay. Then it told me humans are studying them as separate and distinct phenomena. Okay. In other words, the UFO folks, they're like, what the hell does NDEs have to do with UFOs? What the hell
Yeah,
does OBEs have to do with UFOs?
right.
What you go to an NDE conference, right? Which I went to. I went to the annual conference in Orlando. What the
Mm.
hell does OBEs have to do with UFOs? People that do astral traveling and all that stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell does UFOs have to do with NDEs? What the hell does remote viewing have to do with NDEs? Et cetera, et cetera. So each of these different topic areas, they're researchers. They're studying them as separate phenomena. Okay. And then this information that I was told was that no, they're not separate. It's all one.
Yes.
It's one phenomenon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the glue that's holding it all together, humans are calling it consciousness.
Well,
But
yeah.
in reality, what it is the fabric of our reality.
Wow, that's heavy.
Okay. And then it goes on to begin to explain some of the details of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which we don't have the time to explain, but the book is going to go into those details.
But we're doing the live chat. When this comes out,
Correct. We'll go
will
into those
will
details.
be tomorrow, and in the live chat, and then
Yeah.
we'll go over these detailed things as far as any questions and so forth. I do have I mean, because that's a good way to leave a teaser, because you're going to go into the modalities. You're going to go
Yeah.
on live.
Well, they told me a couple of things before we go into the
Okay,
details.
good. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
leave a teaser. Okay.
Okay. And what I was told that you need to inform humanity. And again, when I was getting this information, I had no idea what they meant
Yes.
by these things that they're telling me. Okay. It was later on they understood. But they said you need to inform humanity of the relationship between us, whatever us is, which now I understand what us is.
Okay.
Okay. Us is literally everything. Okay. Because we're all bits and pieces of the universal mind. Okay. You
Right.
need to inform humanity of the relationship between us, the spirit world, which I now interpret as our consciousness after we pass.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
We
Us,
are spirit.
the
Mm-hmm.
spirit world, and consciousness. So it's the relationship, how it's all interrelated between us,
Love this.
the spirit world, and
I
consciousness.
just love
Okay.
what you're doing. It's so needed.
And then they said there's two criteria. Okay. Number one, it's not about you making money here. It's not about you getting rich off of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people go into this field for that, you know.
Mm.
and we know a lot of characters.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay,
And a lot of them are just for that. I hear you.
yeah, they're all snake oil salesmen. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this is not about money, and
No,
you're gonna need help. Okay, and the people that are going to help you, you have to decide these have to be people with minimal ego, because ego will destroy all of this.
wow.
And then when they said that minimal ego, boom, I'm back in my car listening to this guy doing the documentary on his art fat and the liposuction. Now, 1 second had skipped. So I was literally taken outside of space time. And that's what our book
Reality.
is all about. Focusing on this whole aspect of that consciousness is primary, not our physical reality. This is an illusion.
This
Okay.
changes.
And we go into some of the science behind that to explain that. So our book is a mixture of science, philosophy, okay, and experiencer research. What the experiencers tell us about, the nature of our reality through their experiences, like I just told you,
Right.
okay, like you just said, it just shows you that time and space,
Yes.
that they don't exist. Well, that's a good conclusion. Now, if you read similar stories from 60 people, you'll reach the same conclusion, that all of these experiences involve a manipulation of space time. When you have a near death experience,
No
you're
time.
outside of space time.
Oh, very much.
Okay. When you have an out of body experience, when you're doing astral traveling and you're fully
Same thing.
conscious,
Same thing.
same thing. You're outside of space time. Okay. So that's what the contact modalities are. When you see a ghost and spirit, that spirit did not come from your physical 3D reality from your backyard. Was that
Mm-mm.
spirit residing in your backyard? Who knows where it came from? Okay. But the point was that it came from some other reality to
Yeah.
interact with you. Okay. The story of that, there's no coincidences.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Synchronicity is not even the appropriate term for this. These are
Oh,
orchestrated events by the universal mind. Just like our lives are pre planned when we can reincarnate, okay? We have the ability to ad lib, okay? We have some free will up to a certain extent,
yeah,
but
I
there's
agree
certain
with that.
constraints with it. Like in the end of the play, Romeo and Juliet die. You know what I'm saying?
They're
Like
going to
that's where it's
die.
in that. But in there to get there, you have all these choices,
Yeah.
to set plays. Okay, so what happened was I got home that evening. Here I am having all these crazy experiences. I was hyperventilating, like what the hell just happened to me, in the car, right? And
Yes.
all day I didn't do any work. I was just thinking about, what had happened. Once I got home, I got an email from Mary Rodwell, one of your future guests.
Got it. Got it.
Okay,
Okay. We're back on
the
that. Yes.
email said, Ray, I'm sorry I am responding to an email that you had sent me 6 months ago, but the email just popped up on my computer today, the day that I had that experience. Okay. I then responded back to her. I said, well, in the last 6 months, all this crazy stuff has happened. And
Yeah.
today this happened. And she was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, Ray, we need to talk. And she showed me how to use Skype. And we were on Skype till
Yeah.
1:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Okay. And because that's her work, she researches these
Yeah.
cases. Okay, and then we agreed to continue our conversations later, right? So the very next day, this 24 hours after that experience, I get a phone call at 9:30 in the morning. Hello, is this Ray Hernandez? I said, yes. Who's this? Dr. Rudy Shields. I go, who? This is a man who's the retired professor of astrophysics from Harvard
Yes.
after 45
Yeah.
years.
He just spoke at the Contact in the Desert.
Yes, he spoke
Yeah.
correct in Contact in the Desert.
Yeah. Yeah.
He traveled with me. I recommended him.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Oh, all right.
and we were all together the whole time. So
Oh,
anyway,
nice.
so here he is calling me 24 hours after that experience. I had no idea who this man was. You
Sure.
know, how did he get my telephone number? And he goes, Mary didn't tell you that I was going to give you a call. I said, no, she didn't do that. And what it was that she had sent me an email, Ray, do I have your permission for Rudy Shields to call you? Except I hadn't opened up her email, and Rudy jumped the gun. Okay. And he called me before
Oh
Mary
my
saying,
God.
look, it's okay, right? And so he identified who he was. I said, yes, we can chat. I've got time now. And he began to listen to my story. And I told him, okay. And he says, Ray, what you got was the download of Dr. Edgar Mitchell's quantum hologram theory of consciousness.
Okay. Okay. So let me write this down. This is awesome stuff. And this is crazy. I was just talking to a fellow the other day about this identical everything. This is nuts. Okay, go ahead. This is so exciting. Okay, tell me. This is so
And
exciting.
so anyway, he then begins to explain it briefly, you know, and then he said, "Look, Ray, from what you're telling me, it seems like you were given a clear mission." And I
Okay.
was like, "What are you talking about, clear mission?" No, they told you
Yeah.
you need to do this. I said, "I have no
Yeah.
idea." He says, "Look,
Mhm.
I will be your scientific advisor, okay, to whatever you're going to be doing. I'd be more than willing to work with you, to help you, to assist you, right?" So
Okay.
at the end of it all, I thought this man was a madman. You know, what the hell is he talking about? You know, because at
Mhm.
that point, I'm still filtering these things, you know, of what
Sure.
happened to me. This was the day before it started, you know, the
Yeah.
that download, that experience, that out of
That's
body
great.
experience where I was taken to this
That
other
is
reality. And so he
wonderful.
said, "Ray, write down this telephone number." So I wrote down the telephone number he gave me. And he says, "This is the telephone number of my mentor." So in my head, I'm saying, what the hell? This man is like 75 years old. He's
Mhm.
an emeritus professor of astrophysics for 45 years at Harvard University. He had written academic papers saying that Stephen Hawking was completely wrong about black holes, which
Mhm.
later on Stephen Hawking agreed that he was all wrong about black holes. So I said, I'm talking to a genius among geniuses.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and he's telling me all of this stuff. And so I said, well, who's your mentor?
Yeah.
Dr. Edgar Mitchell.
Oh, how cool. This is so
Okay.
cool. This is so cool. You gotta make this into a
Now,
movie.
you need to interview Rudy too. So in case someone tells you this,
Oh my
you
God.
know,
I'm just like shaking.
Mary would verify it, Rudy would verify it. So within 48 hours, I was at the home of Edgar Mitchell. He only lives 90 minutes away, and he used to live, he's deceased now, in Lake Worth, Florida, right up the turnpike where I used to live.
Oh my gosh. I've
Okay.
got the chills. I'm
And
telling you.
so he calls
I
me,
have
says,
got the
Ray,
chills. I love this story.
he goes, Ray, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm working. Well, can you take the day off and hang out with me? I said, of course, it'd be an honor. He says, can you get here at 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock, I was at his home. I was there for 6 hours. Okay. There's so many things I know about Edgar's life that very few people know about, because eventually I was there more than 20 different times at his home. Okay.
What a
And it
wonderful
was,
story.
I told him all that happened to me. He told about all the experiences that he had. Okay. Which I won't go into details. Okay.
Oh
And
wow.
then at the end of it all, he says, look, Ray, Rudy and I had an extensive conversation. Okay. And we agreed to work with you to be your academic scientific advisors for your project. Okay. And he says they gave you a clear mandate, a mission of what you needed to do.
Yeah,
And in
man.
my head, I was saying, these two men, they're nut jobs. What the hell are they talking about? I didn't get it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no,
And it was
okay.
at that home that he was convincing me that I need to form an organization and to do what I'm doing, right? So all of this came via Edgar Mitchell, right?
That's
So what happened was I then called by Skype. We had an email and we talked by Skype with Mary Rodwell, and I told her everything that took place because she didn't know, right? And so then I said, if something ever happens, would you like to join us? And she said yes. Okay. So Saturday morning, which was like 2 days after I met with Edgar Mitchell, I woke up and I had in my mind the whole detail of the first book, Beyond UFOs.
wow.
Okay.
They gave you the download? You got up and you
I
just
got up and it was all
fired
there
and it was
that
just boom.
we needed to
Oh my
do the
goodness.
world's first
Okay.
ever comprehensive academic statistical research study of UFO contact experiencers. Why? Because if all of these experiences are all interrelated, we have lots of information about near-death experiencers.
Mhm.
For
Mhm.
out-of-body experiences, lots of academic articles that have been written about out-of-body experiencers.
Yeah.
Okay, but in terms of hallucinogens, again, lots of articles academically have been written about hallucinogens and the contact experiences. Ghosts and spirits, lots of stuff have been written
Yeah.
about that, also academically. Okay, but when it came to UFOs and UFO contact, zippo academic study.
Really?
Zippo. No
I did not know
statistical,
that.
no statistical research study. Nada. Nothing. Okay. What you
Huh.
had were books by hypnotic regression people, okay,
Okay.
that would say, okay, this is what I think is going on. And all the information came by people that are already biased. Most of them view the UFO contact as highly negative, okay, as
Yeah.
negative beings, and they're taking over this planet by creating hybrids and things of that sort, okay.
Yes. Yes. I've
And
seen
our research study resulted that was all, from 4,200 people, okay. And our research study pretty much contradicted all the BS that's circulating in ufology. Okay, why? Because no one has ever done that statistical research study before, and I'll go on to those details. So anyway, I sent them
that.
that outline. It was like a 5 to 8 page outline to these three individuals, Mary Rodwell, Edgar Mitchell, Rudy Shields, and all of them said, "Wow, this is brilliant. Let's go for it." You know, and so a few days later, Mary called, Skyped me and said, "Ray, I came up with the name Free." Okay. I said, "Well,
Ooh.
how'd you get it?" She goes,
I
"Ray,
like
you know how I got it,
It's
through her
cute.
contact."
Cute.
Okay.
Real cute. Yeah.
And then we launched. And then all of a sudden we started getting all these retired professors that were interested in what we're doing. Because Edgar Mitchell made some phone calls, Rudy Shield made some phone calls, Mary Rodwell has some of her contacts, and before you know it, well, we had a total of almost 10 PhDs that were interested in what we're doing and to helping us. And then we started bringing in non-academic folks, people like Kathleen Martin, who
Yes.
had very, very well known in the UFO arena. Dr.
Yes.
Leo Sprinkle, who was a professor at the University of Wyoming, and he had been studying UFO contactees since the early 60s. Okay. Barbara Lamb, this other woman, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who had published
Oh
62
yeah.
books.
I've read several of her books, and I've
Okay.
had Kathleen on. These people are amazing.
Yeah. So we had the academics on one side, and then we had the non academics, the people that had their boots on the ground with experiencers on the other side. So then we said, okay, how are we going to understand the UFO contact experiencers through these statistical research studies? We need help in developing questions, okay, to get at the full gambit of the experience, not just the abduction BS that's circulating, but the entirety of the phenomenon. So for 9 months, we worked together as a team developing questions for 3 surveys. Okay, we developed 2 of the surveys were 600 quantitative questions,
That's
yes
cool.
or no, from 1 to 5. Pick the best choice, that type of thing. And then we had 70 open-ended questions. That means we asked a generic open-ended questions. It was 70 of those. For the statistical questions, more than 600, we've received responses from more than 4,200 individuals
Wow.
from more than 100 countries.
That's
That
wonderful.
survey, we also did it in multiple languages. In Spanish, we had more than a thousand people that responded to our surveys in Spanish. We also had it in German and in Slovak. And we
Okay.
also developed the survey in Chinese, which we haven't administered yet because we still needed more people, to do that research study. So, what I'm going to tell you is all the English language research, and that's what's published in that book, Beyond UFOs. It's the English language
The
study.
one that you're giving to everyone, which I can't
That's
even
the one.
believe it. My heart
That's
is
the
just
one.
so like overwhelmed with joy and gratitude. I mean,
Yeah.
wow.
And what we discovered, if you read those pages that I'm going to send you, and it's a lot to read. What I'm going to send you is chapter
Okay.
1, which is an analysis of the
Okay.
statistical data.
Okay.
Chapter 2 is an analysis of our um, qualitative data, the open-ended questions. Chapter 1 is like 140 pages. Chapter 2 is over 220 pages. Okay. Then I'm going to send you a chapter on medical healings. Okay. That
Okay.
was written by a retired medical doctor and this other researcher that had Preston Dennett that you
Yeah,
know.
I knew
Yeah.
he's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. And so both of them, Preston had written a book on healing, UFO healings. So I matched them up with our medical doctor, retired medical doctor, and I said, from our research data, I want you to take out like the best 12 case studies and do a chapter on these case studies. People that have documented medical records. Okay. And then that's what they did. Okay. And um, and several other chapters, from our book. And then also I'm going to be sending a peer-reviewed academic research paper. This is a paper written by 4 retired professors that was published in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, which was reviewed by 2 professors before it can be published there. Okay, so this is not just pure metaphysical stuff. This is
No, this is real
hardcore
work. Right.
academical research.
This
okay?
is amazing. You gained all this research that happened to people, and some people probably like you that were very were a materialist or were an atheist. Not all of these people were metaphysical in any way, right? You
No.
probably had the
A lot of
gamut.
these people that never talked to anybody before they responded to our surveys. The vast majority of them had never talked to anyone else about their experiences. And so what happened was that the Beyond UFO books, much of the data there totally contradicts what's circulating on the internet and these UFO conferences. And the reason why is because no one's ever done this study before. We didn't have the data. Okay.
Wow.
You had all these people, and I'll mention some names. For example, this guy, Richard Dolan, who's all in the internet and all these documentaries. They're filming Richard Dolan because he makes a living out of this. Okay. He's not a researcher. He's not a scientist. Okay. He makes his life. He makes money.
This is where we're back to ego. I hear you,
correct,
because you are totally not like that. I got
it. He
it.
pays his bills from spreading misinformation and disinformation. Okay.
Right.
And I just listened to someone said, "Oh, you're in the documentary on Netflix, whatever." And finally, I watched it because I subscribe to Netflix, and I was like vomiting because it was 3/4 of what's in there.
Well,
and they put me in there, like very tiny, small segments, but like I don't want to even be associated with those people, that they have in that show, But anyway, getting back to the if you were to say, Ray, tell me the 4 major research findings, your top 4, okay? Even though we had tons of other ones, okay? One is that we want to explore the question of whether these experiences were positive, negative, or neutral, okay?
Yeah.
Because the internet is filled with
it really dark stuff and negative, a lot of it.
Dark stuff and negative,
like the Greys, and they want to end the invasion and the reptilians, and you don't see anything positive when you mention intergalactic contact.
That's what I'm saying. It's all BS. It's all misinformation and disinformation. We wanted to find this thing, whether this thing was good, positive, negative, or neutral. So we asked that question in more than 25 different ways. For example, we asked the question, if you could stop your ET contact experiences, would you?
You're like, no.
94% said no. 94%. Keep it coming. Okay.
Exactly.
Keep it coming, baby. Keep it coming.
Yeah. Keep those star buddies coming. This is good stuff.
We asked questions, a fixed choice question. That means you couldn't continue with the survey unless you answered this question. And it was only 2 choices. It was either positive or negative. There was no neutral in there because we had asked that questions of neutral in other cases as well. Okay. Well, guess what? Only 4% said it was negative.
Based on their consciousness, based on their whatever.
Well, we asked people to respond to our surveys based upon conscious explicit memory, not via lucid dream, because we don't know what's a lucid dream and what's a regular dream. Not via hypnotic regressions, because you have all these whack jobs doing hypnotic regressions like David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins. And they're the ones that started this whole stuff of abductions. Okay.
I know.
And again, here you have Richard Dolan saying that the best researcher in this field by far is David Jacobs. Okay. And David Jacobs has publicly stated that he has never met a UFO contact experiencer that's had a positive experience. He said that repeatedly. Okay. So if Richard Dolan is holding out David Jacobs as the best researcher in his field, what does that make Richard Dolan?
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. Just tell us how you feel here. Well, but when you put your heart into it,
this is what people are listening to.
I know. I get it.
You understand? That's the frustration I have.
You have the courage to look. You have the courage to look. It's not easy.
Yeah, because I've been there, done that. I've had these experiences. And like, for example, he publicly said that our research study is woo-woo science. But yet we had all the scientists in our organization, real PhD scientists. And here's a man who's spreading disinformation, okay, who's saying that this guy David Jacobs is the best researcher in the field, and his research is real science, okay. Meanwhile, he selects the people that he's going to regress.
Right.
Anyone that's had a positive experiences, he kicks them out. And he's also stated publicly, I've never met anyone that had a positive experience. Never, never. But yet all you need to do is go to the internet and you'll see thousands of people.
I'm very open in terms of I'll bring people on. And one of the things that I noticed back, like I was telling you in March, bringing people on and Preston, Denton, and some others, that it has opened up a whole new world. And I didn't realize that was a part of me in communication that I'm getting and I'm starting to get. Now I could be fearful of that because of the guy like that and people saying it, but that's not what I'm getting at. I feel there is, Earth is a relatively very young planet.
Oh, yeah.
It's been around a lot longer.
Humans have been around for what, 200,000 years at most,
Not a lot.
That scientists are talking about, but yet our known universe is 14.5 billion years. And that's the BS that's coming out from materialist, astronomers and cosmologists.
I agree.
What lies behind that,
I agree. And I think the question would be for me, I'm going through this journey too. And it's very fascinating because I'm having a whole world open up, and it's not just theory. It's like I'm having experiences too. I'm seeing other people have experiences. So here's the thing. There has to be a willingness on the person's part, like you, like, okay, now there has to be a willingness, but just like any form of communication, one has to be willing to speak to the other. So I am totally engaged in this topic. As a matter of fact, I'm not saying there's a couple, what is it, out of what, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands maybe of interdimensional species or whatever you want to call it, or different planets or whatever. Some look like us, some don't, whatever it may be. One or two that aren't exactly kosher and play along. I would be thrilled if I had a mothership land there. I would be, because most of what I find is love and unity. The higher vibration is love and unity. It's not.
One perspective is to view it that these are tens of thousands of diverse, quote unquote, beings from tens of thousands of different planets. Another approach is that maybe it's something a little bit different. Okay. Maybe these are holographic projections.
Okay.
From another reality that are working with us to stimulate us.
I tend to go for that one.
For our own individual growth. Okay. Why?
Yeah.
Because we ourselves are holographic projections.
Yes.
Okay?
I agree with that.
Inside the mind of God. Okay. So that's what our book is going to be talking about. It's going to be focusing on what is called post-materialist science. Okay. That consciousness is fundamental and not our 3D reality. No. And that all of these paranormal experiences need to be seen as one phenomenon. Why? Because we're dealing with a hypothesis that consciousness is fundamental. So everything that we're seeing are projections, okay, to stimulate us, to work with us. For example, I mean, I know we're jumping around, but this is this is very important to this topic here. Okay. In our research study of UFO contact experiences, the reason we did that was because there was zero data, statistical data on UFO contact experiences. So how can we compare the UFO people with the NDE people, with the OBE people who've seen ghosts and spirits, hallucinogenic journeys, whatever. We needed data on the UFO people. So then we could then do a comparative contrast.
Yes.
Okay. Of how these things are different, how are they the same. We still don't have all the data but at least we have a better understanding from the UFO contact phenomenon, okay, how to begin to ask these questions. So what we discovered was that there were literally tens of thousands of different types of beings that people were interacting with. Okay. There was a category. We had 12 categories, okay, and people filled out those 12 different categories. But they also had another category of other, okay. 40% was other, okay. Cool. We had people. For example, let me give you an example, okay? I was speaking with this man who won several Academy Awards like 3 years ago. He was a producer, major film producer. His father was like the rock star of Hollywood producers. Okay, people might already know what I'm talking about, okay?
Okay, yeah, I do. Thank you for your courtesy.
Okay, This man and his wife began seeing UFOs. And then if you see UFOs, multiple of them, most of the time you get all these paranormal experiences that come with it.
Sure.
Just like NDE experiencers. You have an NDE, you die, you cross over. When you come back, all of a sudden you're seeing deceased people, you're seeing orbs,
Sure.
you're having out-of-body experiences. NDE experiences don't talk too much about that, okay? But yet that's part of the phenomenon. Yeah,
Yeah, you are so spot on.
Yvonne is a classic case in that.
Very much. Dr. Von Kaysen totally is. I love her.
And so many people that are writing chapters for our book. Okay. So what happens is all of a sudden this guy's telling me about all of their experiences. And I'm telling him about our book. I sent them chapters for our book. And I said, well, tell me, what was the last experience you and your wife had? Well, the last experience happened 2 weeks ago. My wife was going to the bathroom vanity. Now, mind you, these are very wealthy people. They live in a nice, huge home, right? So she's going to one of these huge bathroom vanities. And there, sitting with its legs crossed, was a 6-foot owl. Okay? Now, you could take the perspective that this 6-foot owl came from the 6-foot owl constellation. Okay? The 6-foot owl planet. And came specifically to interact with them. Okay? Or you could think, maybe it's something else. Maybe this is a holographic projection to interact with them. There's another lady who has had tons of UFOs, tons of contact experience, tons of paranormal experience. She had been interacting with a 7 to 8 foot bird, blue, with a beak and feathers. Okay, there's people that have interacted with like these like a huge sponge creature that would be floating up, in a corner of the house and having telepathic projections with them. Okay, and you name the different type of being, people have seen it. Robot types of beings, the different types of grays, of human-looking beings,
ant-looking things.
Yeah, cat people, and some of them had like outfits on. Some of them had purple outfits. Some had blue outfits. So you could say to yourself, okay, they came from the planet where they wear the purple outfits. The one with the long cat ears, and some people had the shorter cat ears. They came from another planet.
Right.
So then, or you could take the perspective that these are holographic projections, okay? Because the UFO contact phenomena, we were able to demonstrate in our research study. That's one of the 4 major findings, that these experiences involve a manipulation of space-time, okay? One manipulation of space-time.
Yes.
With the UFO contact experience. One example is that 50% of these people said that they were brought to another reality. Okay? They were brought to another reality, like happened to me.
Yeah, brought to another reality. What about your? I mean, I don't know, but what about your fellow? He's Robert Guillotin. Didn't he go? He doesn't just remember.
Oh yeah, he's another one. Yeah,
he's another one.
Yeah, no, there's tons. There's like what we discovered. Another major finding was that the vast majority of these people, have had physical experiences. They've seen the UFOs.
Yeah.
Many of them have called them down. They've seen physical beings. An entity, a creature right in front of you, But the overwhelming majority of the experiences were paranormal experiences, 80%.
Can you define what you think paranormal?
Yes. No, that's what I'm going to tell you. 80%. 80% have had out-of-body experiences. 67%, 2 out of 3 people have seen what is commonly called a ghost or a spirit, a deceased entity. 2/3, orbs. 60% have seen orbs, not in the picture, but physical orbs. Most of them in all the colors, multiple colors. We had like, was it white? Was it black? Was it red? Was it orange? And people would check off all the boxes. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of people have seen each of the different colors. We've had near-death experiences. 37% of the people have had near-death experiences. In terms of downloads, receiving downloads of information, 37% of these people have received downloads of advanced science and mathematics and physics that they had no idea how that information came to them.
Are you serious?
Yes, it's in our book.
Okay, I don't talk about this stuff. I have been starting to see for a few months sacred geometry, and I'm not like a scientist. Well, not this time, but I don't. But now I'm seeing all this stuff, and
it's all part of our research study. 37% of these experiences are seeing. For example, let me give you a couple of classic cases. Let me
Numbers,
give you
numbers, numbers,
let me
numbers.
give you a couple of cases. These two major experiencers. Okay, one is a a PhD scientist, a
Okay.
physicist, mathematician
Okay.
in the early '60s, and then the other one is a retired federal DEA agent. Major. This DEA agent is a major, one of the world's major contact experiencers that no one knows about,
Got it.
and he just happens to be one of my best friends.
Oh,
Okay,
that's cool.
his
Perfect.
wife is a PhD psychologist. Okay, they both had the same thing happen to them. My friend, who's not a physicist, not a scientist, whatever, okay, was watching TV, and then right in front of him was a projection. He said it was like a big Apple tablet, gigantic, okay,
Mhm.
like 5 feet tall, like 3 feet wide, began scrolling down all these physics equations, like scrolling down, scrolling
Got
down,
it.
scrolling down. And he was looking at it. He called his wife. Okay. His wife comes, the wife couldn't see it. She didn't see it. And he's telling her where it is. And he, give me a pad. He's like trying to write them, but it was like too fast. But he wrote down some of these things, right? And then the wife was like, ask it a question, ask it a question. What does it want? What is, because both of them are major experiencers, but he's like
Yeah.
super big time. Okay. So they weren't scared. They know what was going on. Now, after a half hour, he just walked away. I said, "What? What? You just walked away?" He
I
goes, "Ray, it was
that.
boring. It was boring. I'm not going to be staying here, the rest of the day watching this thing. I don't know anything about it. I'm not a physicist. I don't know. This is boring." So he walks away. Okay. Now, mind you, the PhD physicist and mathematician, there's a child prodigy in math and physics. And they were very, very young. Okay. It happened to him when he was 19 years old. He was camping with his girlfriend. Okay. He was inside his tent. All of a sudden, the same thing happened. Exactly. These holographic projections were scrolling down, except he understood it. Okay. So
The
I asked him,
equations or the language?
no, these are all physics. It was all physics
Cool.
writings.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
so I asked him to explain it to me. He says, Ray, there's something in physics called Maxwell field equations. This is right before Albert Einstein. Okay. A lot of the major fundamental theories of physics came with this man Maxwell. I think it was from the UK. Okay.
Okay.
And a lot of Einstein's physics were derived from this man. Okay.
Wow.
And so he said, if you can imagine Albert Einstein getting Maxwell field equations and turning to the right, okay, except this was Einstein turning to the left.
Wow.
That's how he explained it, okay,
Okay.
because
Okay.
he knew I wouldn't be able to understand it.
Okay.
So that's how he sort of explained it.
Wow.
And he wrote a lot of it down. And he says this was a theory that he had been working on for several years and was giving him solutions to that theory.
Hey, let me tell you something real. It's quick. It's weird. So I had Florida years ago. Someone contact me for a reading. I didn't know who they were. Get on the Zoom. Hey, how you doing? Don't know them. A nice gentleman, seemed very pleasant and gentle. His wife was kind of found off to the side. He got, the typical nice hello from the relatives. The situation said hello to the wife. Okay, it was great. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Einstein shows up, and I'm arguing, going, I'm not doing this. I don't know why I should be talking about this. And he goes, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. Einstein's here. And he started laughing and crying. He goes, yeah, go ahead. And I'm like, what? So bottom line, so he says, go ahead. This is the coolest thing. So he goes, all right, go ahead. I got to have him on the show. He's an awesome guy. But anyway, I didn't know him. And it was some fluke thing how he got to me. And the first time, like, he got bit by a bat and wanted to know he's going to die. It was just a weird thing. Anyway, so I said, yeah, he's here. He said he loves you. You're like a brother. He really wants to thank you for, all the work you're doing, and he wants to talk about the probability of chickens. When he was a kid, he would look at the probability of chickens, which was going to have the dark egg and the white egg, or the white colored egg. And he said that your birthdays are similar, and that you're like a brother, and he loves you a lot, and that he has something for you. And I started arguing again, like, I'm not doing it. I'm horrible at math. Please don't make me do this. And he wrote down this equation, which I'm like, I don't know. And so first of all, I said, I feel silly doing this. And he goes, no. And I said, okay, before I show you this thing he's showing me, why is he saying this? And he said, I've spent my entire life finishing his book on relativity.
Oh, wow.
his whole life, and he was crying and smiling. It was very unusual. And he didn't know about the chickens. Later, he found out, it was like a day or two later, he found in a book that he did that as a boy in Italy. Look at the chicken probability. Chickens always come up in my readings. I think it's something funny they do with me. But anyway, and I said, well, what? All right, well, I'll show you this thing he gave you, but I mean, I probably got it wrong. And so I held it up on the screen, and the guy is like euphoric, and this was his idol, and he's crying and he's laughing, and he goes, that's the formula to acceleration that I've been looking for. Thank you.
You see?
Is that amazing? And I am not that, but he knew but it was so loving. Like, he knew the guy had studied his work. The guy loved him. Is there a soul connection between them? Absolutely. This guy his name is Mark Fiorentino. His work is outstanding, and he's so passionate about it. He wants to create a utopian world, and a lovely person. And so, yeah. And then he saw me 3 years later at the Southern Women's Show, and he shows up with his wife. He drives 4 hours away because it's Florida, but Florida's big. And he said, well, I want to do some channeling. So he had 3 pages of all this scientific stuff and like space stuff. I'm like, I don't know. And it's loud. People are talking. I said, I don't know this stuff. So I have my cousin who's helping me. I said, all right, this is what we're going to do. I don't know if I can do it, but I feel safe with you. You're a really nice person. And he loves God and all that, but he's a scientist. And I said, I'm going to just zone out. And I could go into a trance like that. And I said, you just ask me. I have no freaking idea what he asked me. And again, it's loud. It's in a convention center. It's at the Jacksonville Convention Center. He said, I told him how to create a stargate. Don't remember. And how stars were formed of gases. All this stuff. He put 2 chapters in his book over this. And I don't remember. So what I think is this. I think if you're open and you have a love and a kindness toward others, I think that this consciousness that we're part of wants to communicate with us.
Correct. The universal mind.
It really
and it really wasn't Einstein. It was the universal mind that projected itself like Einstein, just like the universal mind projected it like the 6-foot chicken to this lady or to that blue bird, with the beak, to the other lady. Okay. These are all projections that like to stimulate people for a reason.
Yeah. And I think that they want what I'm saying now. And, I think it's because I was open. I like the guy that happened. Somebody else might have not been very open. Maybe it wouldn't have happened. But I think that we have access to this. And I think if we don't come from a place of fear and come from a place of realizing
fear is the total opposite.
Total
if
opposite.
We come from a place of love,
yes.
kindness,
love,
and minimal ego,
appreciation, and I just, I'm so grateful in my heart. I met him now. He's a good friend. I just think he's a wonderful person and making such a contribution to humanity. But, and I feel like, wow, I did something to help somebody like that.
I could tell you a few stories.
For all of us.
I could tell you a few stories of what you just told me that would corroborate everything you just said, from
other people. Really?
And also me. Okay.
Are you serious?
Yes. Okay, but just to these are lengthy stories. We don't have time for these things. But just to let you know is that everything that you've told me, it's true. It's a fact. Okay, and the only thing that's magical, the only thing that's magical here, is that I believe hypothesize, and most of the people in the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute hypothesizes that these are all projections from the universal mind. That it's not like you're dealing with these physical beings that are interacting with not all of them. I'm not saying that it's 100% all of them, but the vast majority of these contact modalities experiences are experiences that is being tailored to each of us, because they're all unique. Just like every NDE is unique, every OBE is unique. Okay, it's for that person. So your stories are for you. My experiences are for me. Okay. And it's all dealing with the universal mind interacting with us.
This is some deep stuff, but I totally agree with you. It shows the magnificence of God is everywhere. Whatever you want to call it, source. We're all a part of it. There is
no matter what you call it.
Whatever you call it.
I don't have a problem calling it God as long as people understand I'm not talking about religion.
Yeah, that's something entirely different than
Yeah,
this conversation.
yeah,
But yeah, I agree. I think that we're part of that, but we've forgotten it. We're part of the source. We're part of that. Some people call it the Kaja records. It's a lot bigger than that.
yeah. No, it's
It's big.
Anyway, we're going to be getting into some of these things through a story.
Yes. Yes, we are.
In chapters, various chapters in our book. Like, for example, we have a whole section that was geared off Dr. Edgar Mitchell's quantum hologram theory of consciousness. Okay,
Yes.
it's in that book, and that explains how humans are able to tap into the information fields, the zeros and ones in my background. Okay,
Yes. I'm
and
going
to
to ask.
download all of that information. Okay, like for example, you all of a sudden, how you were able to tap into, Einstein, whatever.
It was
Okay,
crazy.
what it is he
You
described the
gotta
mechanism.
laugh.
He described the mechanism of that, through
Oh
advanced
my God.
physics.
I have got to get this
But
book.
he explained it in a way that, I mean, you're going to have to read it a couple of times, but it's
Yeah.
not, you have to be a physicist to understand it. Okay. You just have to, I read it like 3 or 4 times for me to be able to
Okay.
begin to understand
Yeah.
it. But
Okay.
we have a whole section of like 5 or 6 sections that analyze his theory. And it talks about how this works and what we're talking about. And
What
again,
are those? What is the zeros and ones, and
oh,
why is
okay.
it so significant? Because I'm saying every time I wake up or I look at a clock, I mean, it's like getting a little nutty. It's always the zero. It's been the past 2 weeks. It's getting crazy. I can't stop getting these things. What is
Okay.
it? Is it you?
Okay.
Did you do it to
Uh,
me, Ray?
or very, very briefly, our reality is based upon information fields. Okay.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
how information, knowledge is being conveyed. Okay. When you get down to the nitty gritty of it, at the smallest scale, smallest elements,
Mhm.
is bits of information. Just like how the universal mind was able to get my daughter's, you know, language and us,
Yeah.
uplift it from my
Right.
mind, and then
Yes.
we compute it and download it back. It's
Yeah.
it's like a computer. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And computers work this way through zeros and ones.
Oh my God.
Okay.
This is the Matrix for real.
Well, that's what it is. We're inside a matrix.
Really. So
We're
we have
inside a
taken
matrix.
the which one is the enlightenment pill? The blue one or the red one?
I,
I don't
I
know.
know he opens up both of his hands. He said, "Make a choice." I don't know which one.
Yeah, and the one
But
guy
but
actually went to back. He said, "No, I want to take the one where it's like a holographic world, and I'd go back and eat my steak."
well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's why Edgar Mitchell's
Mm.
theory is called the quantum hologram theory of consciousness. Why? Because if you get a hologram, those little images that you see the same image, no matter if you turn it this way and you turn it that way. If you,
Yeah.
like a credit card, you cut one of those old credit cards with the hologram in half,
Mhm.
you'll see the same image in that
Mhm.
one half, except it's one half diluted. It's not with that sharpness.
Mhm.
Okay, you cut that in half, you'll still see the same exact image, except it's not as concentrated. Okay, so that's a hologram. Now, you could take that type of image and push it all the way down to the subatomic level. Okay, and you could also push it up higher. You
Kind of
know,
like a mirror, like not well, where a mirror and a mirror where it keeps going and going.
it's something similar to that. Correct. Correct.
It could be very small or it could be big.
But just like, for example,
Mhm.
Edgar Mitchell was healed of 2 cancers
That's
by
amazing.
Reiki healers. Okay, so we know that this works. Okay, not to
Yeah.
everybody. Okay, and
Yeah.
not everyone who's a gifted Reiki healer is
Yeah.
successful with their healing.
True.
But we know that certain people are gifted.
That's
Okay,
right.
that
That's true.
that's able to, like for example, you just can't call up Albert Einstein whenever you want.
Uh,
Okay,
if I had a relationship, kind of, but no,
it has to have unique circumstances.
it has to have unique
Okay,
circumstances.
but
Yeah.
it's not like super rare, like it's never going to happen again. Okay,
Well, he shows up every time I talk to Mark
okay, well, you see. Okay,
because Mark and him have a thing going on.
correct, because you already have that bond with the universal mind there, with
Yeah.
consciousness on that aspect of it. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that you yourself are a highly gifted person that has these abilities. You've already crossed over multiple times,
Mhm.
and you've opened up because of your NDEs to all of these paranormal and psi phenomenon and be able to
Mhm.
communicate. The thing is that our book is trying to explain for the first time. And let me get into at least a little introduction before we
Yes,
get into
please
some of
do,
the.
because I want to leave a teaser for us for the part 2 for when we do the live chat.
Well, in our book, we have an article by this man. His name is Tom Campbell. Okay,
Yeah, the
he
thumb guy, my right thumb or foot or
my big
whatever.
toe, my
My
big
big
toe.
toe. Okay. Okay, I had the
Correct.
wrong body part, but okay, my big toe.
People don't know. Okay, the theory of everything. TOE. People don't know that he was Robert Monroe's guinea pig even
know that.
before the Monroe Institute was even started. He was there from the very beginning with Robert Monroe. Okay, and he just happens to be a PhD physicist. Okay, so since the early 70s, since he learned how to do OBEs and to do astral traveling, he lives out of body
Yeah, it feels
most of the
better.
time. Most of the time, yeah. But here's the difference. Unlike Preston Dennett, okay, or a very good friend of mine, that since he was 8 years old, he's been living out of body, who happens to be a physician, an emergency room physician, okay, and the smartest man
Fascinating.
in the world that I've ever met. But anyway, um,
Wow.
this man, Tom Campbell, is a physicist. So while he was out of body, he would do these controlled experiments, okay,
Got it.
in terms of the nature of our reality as a physicist, okay, because he knew all of Einstein's theories, all the quantum physicists, all of their theories, whatever. So he would do all these experiments out of body. And he wrote this book, My Big Toe. And we have his only article that he's ever written on this in an article format. It's going to be in our book.
Oh, wow.
And it's a theory on virtual reality, on a matrix reality, that we're living inside a matrix reality. And he
Yes.
says that can
Yeah.
explain all paranormal.
It can explain a lot of things.
Yeah. Okay. Not that you're going to have definitive explanations, but it's his hypotheses. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And since most of the academics in our book have this philosophy, this thesis that consciousness is primary, not our physical 3D reality, it backdoors with all of Tom Campbell's, thesis. Except he's very, very specific in terms of, very, very detailed, his argument and his thesis, where these other people are not going anywhere near there because they just don't know. They can only hypothesize, okay,
Yes,
of
yes.
that. And major people we're talking about,
Oh,
in our
absolutely.
organization.
But
And
isn't it
so,
exciting to work with people that you can talk about this with and that you love and
yes,
respect? How
yes.
wonderful.
And so what we're doing is on the one side, volumes 1 and 2 are theoretical chapters
I got
that
it.
talk about the theory of all these topics that we've been talking about
Okay.
from a science perspective.
Got it.
Okay. And then volumes 3 and 4 are chapters written by people like you, people like Yvonne, people like Preston. Matter of fact, he's
Yeah.
writing a chapter in our book.
Oh,
Okay.
that's great.
So it's tons of people that have had not just one type of experience, but a whole range.
He's had a range, and I interviewed him around the same time as you. I don't know why, but I did, and he had him on a couple times, and I went on his YouTube site, Preston did, and I went and looked at it, and I got so excited. I never do this because people don't answer their phone anymore, and
Yeah.
so I called him. And he picked up. I said, "You weren't going to pick up." He's like, "Hello," because he doesn't know me. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Tamara. So I see you. I'm so excited about your work." And he was like, "She's a nut." And when I had him on, and we did we talked about so many things about the healing hospitals and all that. But I said, "You're really intuitive." And I said, and his mom showed up kind of in the middle while we're doing it.
Yeah.
But he has mediumistic capabilities. He has astral travel. He goes to the same places I've been.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're not dreams. I said, they're very vivid. He started laughing. I'm like, oh, great. Let's add that, check that off. And I'm like, really? And we compared notes, and I just felt it was so validating to have him on.
Oh,
And
yes.
what a great human being. He's got such a childlike spirit. He's just very pleasant.
Yes. No ego.
Oh gosh, no.
No
We
ego.
laughed. We had so much fun. I mean, people like that, you just want to hug them and thank them for what they're doing.
Yes.
You know?
I spent several days with Preston at a UFO conference that we were at, and we spent a lot of quality time with each other,
Oh,
and I really got to know him.
yeah.
And
Some of
he's just
yeah,
a blessed human, you know.
he is,
And
and you are
in
too.
well, I have so many defects, you know,
Oh gosh, me too.
so
You're
many major
cantankerous. We've
defects.
already talked about you're cantankerous. You're hard headed.
Oh yes, yes, and I could. That's just the beginning of it,
you,
you know.
you drop the maybe the f bomb.
Oh
So
yes,
so do
yes,
I. You know, we
and
just
that's
can't do
and
it on
that's good,
YouTube.
and that's controlling myself. Okay,
I
so
know you are. You're being really good today. Well, only because YouTube doesn't particularly like it. But the thing is, all of us, we don't have to be. Look, this is another. For me, one of my teachers, Jesus, but not. I mean, yeah, the one in there, but not really. He's a lot more down to earth, but he said labels, and the labels we have for ourselves and the judgments we have, and we need to pierce through our own boxes and boxes. We're like that Russian doll, and we've
yes,
crammed ourselves in there that we're this little, when in fact, if we just kept opening up and then
yeah,
looked out, there's a whole bigger world. It's not what we think it is.
no,
This is
no.
not what we think
That's
it
why
is.
the title of our book is titled "A Greater Reality."
It is.
Okay,
Oh
and
God.
then the next phrasing, if you
Yeah.
could put up that screenshot
Yes. Yeah.
of the
Put it
book here,
again.
and next time we'll talk about it. As you
Yes.
could see, the Vesuvian Man from Leonardo da Vinci is there in the
Yes.
background, and you could see it like a spirit rising up, into the heavens.
Yes.
Okay, and so the title of our book is A Greater Reality, because that's where we live, a reality
Yes.
that most people are totally clueless about. There's something greater outside of what we perceive. Okay, and
Yeah.
then the next concept is the new paradigm. Okay, why it's a new paradigm? Because it's a whole new way of thinking that we're
Hmm.
presenting. Okay,
Hmm.
it's a new arena that we're presenting. So it's the new paradigm of non-local consciousness, and non-local consciousness is the article that Edgar Mitchell talks about, how we as
Okay.
humans are piercing the veil of our greater reality via these
Yeah.
information fields and tapping into source. Okay,
Well, it's
and
happening everywhere. I mean, just regular people.
yep, yep. And that's the term that he used, non-local consciousness. Okay.
Wow.
Now I threw in the term the paranormal because no
Mhm.
one would know what the hell we're talking about. Okay. Now I threw in the
Okay.
paranormal, so someone reads it and they say, "Oh, it's paranormal. It's paranormal." And so that's why I even put it in there, because a lot of people
Right.
would not understand.
Right.
Originally, I had it the new paradigm of non-local consciousness and the contact modalities. Okay. And
Yes.
so we added that in there just to give it a little flair. But the contact modalities are all the different ways that humans are piercing the veil of
Yes.
our reality and having
Yes.
contact with non perceived higher forms of intelligence. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, as you can see there, NDEs, OBEs, UFOs, and spirits, if you take the first word, NOUS, which is the
Mhm.
largest word there, the largest letter, I should say, nous means knowledge, wisdom in Greek, in ancient Greek. Okay.
Fascinating.
So there was a specific reason of why we did that. And so
Right.
you have angels, non human intelligence, hallucinogenic
Yeah.
journeys, remote viewing, prayer,
Mhm.
post death communications, automatic writing, orbs, poltergeist, human initiated contact experiences, energy healing, precognition, clairvoyance, kundalini awakening, on and on and on and on. These are all the different things that are happening to experiencers, okay, when they're piercing the veil of our reality.
And I think some of these people might not consciously know that, but I even mentioned to you that people that are coming in my readings, like regular people, some of them are kind of, community citizens, or what do you want to call? I would consider them a regular person that are waking up, and I think it's because so many of us are that we're opening that. You say the veil, and I love your little portal you had on there because I mean, to me, I think our portals are like doorways. We create it through our astral travel. And I think and I saw one of mine, I saw a tunnel. I don't think it was a tunnel. I think it was a portal. It was an
Well,
illusion of a tunnel or of a portal.
I think we talked about this off camera, but
Got
now
it.
I'll tell this to the
Ooh.
audience, to
Okay.
all your audience members now, okay?
Okay.
Um, there's a specific strategy of why all of this awakening, I call it the Kundalini awakening of humanity,
No
is
kidding.
taking place at this time. Okay, and the
Amen.
reason is because we have reached the point of self-destruction. where humanity has the capacity to destroy itself.
Yeah, we
And
don't want
that's via nuclear proliferation
that.
and the ecological destruction of our planet, among others. Okay. But let's
Yeah,
just start with those two.
yeah.
And then I always tell people there's a reason why 3 out of those 4 contact modalities that
Mm-hmm.
you had shown a little bit earlier,
Mm-hmm.
okay, um, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, UFOs, and seeing ghosts and spirits are the 4 major contact modalities. And
Okay.
there's a reason why 3 of those, NDEs, OBEs, and UFOs, all of them began to circulate on a worldwide basis. They all became known to humanity within 5 years of each other. Now, this is before the internet, because before the internet, everything had to circulate, through books or TV or radio shows. The
Yes.
internet didn't exist. Now you could put something on the internet within a minute, everybody in the world knows about it. Okay.
Yes.
So it was very difficult for these things to circulate on a worldwide basis. Okay. So let me start off with UFOs. Okay. The UFOs, the whole concept of aliens, ETs, of beings from other planets, from other universe, other galaxies, interdimensional type of beings. Okay. When did all these concepts really take off? Internationally, not just in the US. Okay.
Right.
I would argue with Star Trek. Okay. Star
Oh
Trek
God,
became,
yeah. It's
yeah,
huge.
it became syndicated. That means the rights were sold to many other TV stations around the world in multiple languages, translated to multiple languages in 1969. Okay. About 10 years later, all the movies started coming out, again, in numerous languages. Okay. So in 1969, humanity began to know all about UFOs, ET aliens, and all of this topic. Now, how many movies have we had since that date? Okay. We've got ET, right? The extraterrestrial. We've had
Yeah.
Close Encounters
Close
of the Third
Encounter.
Time.
Mhm.
We've had Contact, the movie with
Yeah,
Jodie
that was Jodie
Foster.
Foster. Mm-hmm.
We've had the guy, what it's called, that very famous African American actor.
Independence Day with Will
Independent.
Smith.
Well, that's another one, Independence Day. I'm thinking about, it was like a comedy also,
Oh,
where all,
comedy.
all, all these ETs were
Men in
coming.
Black.
Men in Black. Yeah, I mean,
Same fella. Was it the same fella? Yeah, same fella.
yeah.
Will
So
Smith.
on and on and on and on. You have literally hundreds now of these types of
Yes.
movies.
Oh, you
So
see it all
now
the time. They
all of
do it great.
humanity knows all about these things about UFOs and ETs and aliens and stuff. When did it really get launched internationally? 1969. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, near death experiences. When did that get launched internationally? I would argue 1975 with Raymond Moody's book, Life
Yes.
After Life. Okay. That book became a New York Times bestseller. It was translated into all of the major languages around the world. Okay. So uh, it became internationally known, that concept of near
Yes.
death experiences. Okay. Eventually,
Yeah.
there isn't one person that you talk to literally that doesn't has never heard of that term, near death experiences. Now,
Right.
now it's common all over the place. Okay.
Right. And
And again,
right around that time, which really changed my life, I actually read Saved by the Light first with Danny and Brinkley, who collaborated with Dr. Raymond Moody, and then I read Life After Life, and then there was Betty Eadie's book.
yeah,
It wasn't something Embraced by the Light,
yeah,
and that was back then they were. God bless them. They were looked at as kooks back
they
then.
were, yeah, yeah, but
They
they were
were.
pioneers. They were
They
pioneers.
were the pioneers, and I give them a lot of honor, for doing that because they are now a household name.
Yeah, correct. And then the other third major concept modalities. But let me talk about the one that's not in that top 3. And that's ghosts and spirits.
Okay.
Ghosts and spirits have been known since the dawn of mankind. Okay.
Yeah.
All the ancient cultures, traditions, philosophies, Buddhism, Hinduism, from ancient Greek
True.
culture to everything,
Judaism.
they've all have written about, ghosts and spirits and
Yes.
that topic. Okay.
Yes.
But the other topic that wasn't publicly known on a worldwide basis until Robert Monroe. We talked about him earlier. Okay.
Yes. Robert Monroe, the Monroe Institute.
The Monroe Institute. Robert Monroe published his first book in the early 1970s. Okay. That book, I think it's called Far Journeys, I think it was.
Yeah,
That
I
book,
got it on my shelf. Yeah.
that book was translated into numerous languages.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, it was on a bestseller list. It was translated into many languages, circulated all over the world. Okay. Now, just like NDEs, just like the topic of UFOs and aliens, most people, I'm not saying everyone in humanity, but most people have heard of the term out of body experiences. Okay.
Right.
Now, again, to summarize, when did those three major contact modalities begin to be known at an international basis before the internet? Within 5 years of each other.
That's
Now, here's the
wow.
question I want to ask your audience members. Was this a coincidence that it began to be known within 5 years of each other? Through the
I
whole dawn of mankind?
doubt it.
No, no way. These were orchestrated events by the universal mind. For what purpose?
To
To
wake us up.
awaken, to wake us up, for us to
Mhm.
understand that we are eternal spiritual beings and
Absolutely.
that we are destroying. But anyway, the whole point is that what we're told is we need to learn that
Yeah.
four-letter word. Okay. And there's a reason for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if we able to implement that at a small increasing scale every year, we
Mhm.
might be able to avoid our own self-destruction.
I think
Okay.
we've done this before and we're playing it out, and I don't want this to
Exactly,
happen.
exactly.
I think
And
we
all we
this
are
is
is, I
the
totally
mark.
agree with you. And we get replanted again.
That's
Like a
right.
seed. Someone saves a seed
I
from
agree.
a corn. Okay, we plant the seed again, and the corn stalk is going to grow again.
We're
You
the
know,
corn stalk.
we're the corn stalk, and,
We're the
and we keep
corn.
on making the same mistakes, and we wind up
Oh my
wiping
goodness.
each other out.
Do you know what I do think? And I don't know how this works, and I know we do need to end off and then save some good juicy stuff for the live chat, which there's plenty left for that. But I've been told by Jesus, he's very, very funny to me. He goes, "The band's back." I said, "What's that mean?" But I think people that were pivotal at different points, I think that we can be in different planets at the same time, and we don't have to just have one body. But I think, so with that said, I think certain people in this reality, as we think we know it, that are here for certain absolute missions, so we don't blow each other up. I don't mind it, but yeah, that's what it is. And we've,
Mm.
naturally forgotten, certain things in the past we've done, or that were part of the band. But yeah, there's certain people here exactly at the certain time, whether it's, that guy, like I mentioned, Mark Ferentino, Einstein working through him, or Tesla working through someone else, or whatever that is. But that's so the energy of certain people can ignite and get excited. Like I'm excited right now by your information to get others turned on
Yeah.
to reading your books, and really digging into the people and the names that you mentioned, and really checking out this thing for yourself. So it really is an exciting time. I am determined to whatever it takes to make this go right, because this is I refuse to have nothing but love and peace. That's personally me,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because
No,
that's
no,
my reality.
we all have our own unique missions. Why? Because all of us have been given similar missions. I cannot do what I'm doing by myself.
Oh God,
You cannot doing what you're
no,
doing
I
by
cannot.
yourself.
I
And there's
cannot.
so many people like Yvonne, for example, with the work that she's doing, and so
Yes.
many other people. We've been given similar missions. And all of us, the band, we're the band,
We're the
we're,
part of the band, or we'll put it this way: we're all fingers to a hand.
yeah,
We're all important. We all count to do our part, and that's why it makes me sad when people don't realize they count. We all count,
yeah.
every one of us. So, well, look, we're going to have you back for the live chat. You have been fantastic as always. You are raw. You're real. You're speaking from your heart. You're living the life. And you know what? I love it. You're a rebel. You go against the grain, because I think that we'll just call it this: the status quo. Okay, that likes the materialistic world, that likes the realism, that likes the control, doesn't like for people like Ray Hernandez to speak out, because you're debunking the matrix.
Exactly, exactly.
And
It's
I love it. And you're going to do it anyway, which is awesome. I'm
yeah,
right with you.
exactly,
I'm on your
exactly.
team. So look, thank you so much.
Thank you,
You're
Tamara.
such a blessing, and we will see
I
you
had
on
a
the
lot of
live
fun.
chat. Oh gosh, are you kidding? I'm like such a fan of yours. I had so much fun. So thank you. I feel very honored. Thank you so much. And you're just you're really an inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamara. You're a very special person. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
oh, well, thank you. All right. God bless you. Thank you.